Have you ever wondered why certain people keep popping up in your thoughts, even when you'd rather they didn't? You go on with your life, stay busy, and meet new folks, but they stick around like ghosts from your past, showing up, especially when it's quiet. Carl Jung thought these recurring thoughts aren't just random. They're nudges from your unconscious mind, telling you to dig deeper. Our minds aren't just logical machines that throw out unnecessary information. They hold on to things that are emotionally charged, unresolved, or still meaningful to us, sometimes even if we don't want them to. If someone keeps coming to mind, it could mean there's an unseen psychological connection, something unresolved deep within you. Jung's idea of the collective unconscious suggests we're all linked by a hidden network of shared experiences, symbols, and emotions that go beyond our individual selves. Some people come into our lives and leave a mark on this deeper part of us. Their presence in our thoughts isn't just a memory, it's a message. These thoughts can be linked to emotions we haven't fully dealt with, like love, regret, admiration, or resentment. But whatever the emotion, if they're still in your mind, your unconscious is hanging on to them for a reason. Our minds focus on what's important, what needs to be recognized. Then there's the issue of unfinished emotional energy. When relationships or even brief encounters are emotionally charged, they leave a lasting impression. Our unconscious doesn't keep track of time like our conscious minds. It doesn't matter if it's been days or years. If something was left unresolved, it's still active under the surface, subtly influencing your thoughts and feelings. Ever heard a song that instantly took you back to a moment, a person, or a feeling? That's because our minds group experiences by emotions, and just one trigger can bring it all rushing back. If someone remains in your thoughts, perhaps the emotional link between you two was never completely severed, but it goes even deeper. Sometimes people stick in our minds, not just for who they are, but for what they represent. Our unconscious speaks in symbols, linking people to lessons or old wounds. Maybe the person you can't stop thinking about isn't just an individual. They could be a symbol of a deep desire, unresolved pain, or a missing piece of your story. Jung believed our psyche clings to these figures because they are connected to our personal growth. Until we understand the role they play in our unconscious, they will keep coming back. What is your mind trying to tell you? Let's dive deeper. What if the way you see these people is actually a reflection of something inside you? Have you ever felt a strong pull or dislike towards someone without fully understanding why? Maybe you idealized them only to be disappointed later, or maybe someone annoyed you, triggering feelings that seemed too intense for the situation. Jung said these strong reactions are often not about the other person. They are about you. They are projections of hidden parts of your psyche onto others. Our minds consist of both conscious and unconscious parts, the latter holding everything we deny or fail to integrate. When someone really gets stuck in your thoughts, it's likely because they mirror something in you that you haven't yet acknowledged. This might be a fear, a desire, or a trait you don't want to admit you have. For example, if you're always thinking about someone confident and charismatic, deep down, you might be longing to be like that. Or if you dislike someone intensely, it might be because they reflect a part of yourself you're struggling to accept. The more we ignore these aspects of ourselves, the more they control us, and the more we project them onto others. Jung's concept of the shadow includes the hidden or darker sides of our personality, desires, emotions, and impulses we've learned to suppress. We might think we know ourselves, but much of who we are operates below the surface. When someone resonates deeply with us, they might be touching a part of our shadow. This is why certain people seem to haunt our thoughts. They represent something we need to deal with, something we're subconsciously trying to work through. Our minds don't fixate on random people. They focus on those who reflect back at us. Whether we realize it or not, the real reason someone is always on your mind might not be about them at all. It could be about a part of yourself that's waiting to be discovered. But projection isn't just about people. It can shape how we view the world. If we have deep insecurities, we might assume others are judging us. If we struggle with self-worth, we might think others are better than us. If we have old wounds, we might project them onto new relationships, repeating past patterns without realizing it. Understanding projection can help us take back the parts of ourselves we've unknowingly projected onto others. The people we obsess over, admire, or resent are often showing us something about ourselves. The key is to look inward instead of outward for answers. So, what happens when these projections are tied to strong emotional bonds? When the connection is not just psychological but emotional, some people don't just pass through our lives. They leave a mark so deep that it seems impossible to forget them, even with time, even after we've told ourselves we've moved on. Their presence lingers like an unfinished sentence. Why do some emotional bonds seem unbreakable even when we try to let go? Carl Jung believed that our emotional connections embed themselves in our unconscious, shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and even our identity. When an emotional bond is unresolved, it keeps influencing our mind quietly. Neuroscience supports this idea. When we form a deep emotional attachment, our brain creates neural pathways that link that person with feelings of safety, love, or pain. These pathways don't just disappear when a relationship ends. They stay active, getting triggered by a familiar smell, a song, or a memory. This is why some people stay in our thoughts. Our brains have physically wired them into our emotional landscape. The stronger the bond, the stronger these neural connections, making it hard to stop thinking about them. If an emotional experience is unresolved, whether from heartbreak, regret, or unfinished business, it can become a loop in the unconscious, replaying itself in an attempt to find resolution. Our minds keep going back to the past not out of nostalgia, but because they're looking for something, an answer, an understanding, a closure we never got. But emotional bonds are not just neurological, they are deeply rooted in the unconscious, where processed emotions reside. When we refuse to face certain feelings, they don't just disappear, they become psychic residue, affecting us in ways we might not fully understand. Have you noticed how some people seem to haunt you even when they're not in your life anymore? This is because, on some level, you're still emotionally engaged with them. Jung believed that unresolved emotions act like unfinished psychological contracts. Until we acknowledge and deal with them, they keep demanding our attention. Sometimes we hold on because of what that person represented, a lost version of ourselves, an unfulfilled dream, a hope that never came true. In this way, the attachment is not just about them, it's about what they symbolize within our own psyche. So how do we break free from these unresolved emotional bonds? The first step is recognizing that our thoughts about someone are often not about that person at all, but about something deeper within us. What emotions are still unprocessed? What lessons remain unlearned? What part of ourselves is still tied to that connection? Letting go is not about forgetting, it's about integration. It's about allowing ourselves to fully feel, process, and accept what was so that it no longer controls us from the shadows. When we do this, the mind no longer needs to obsess because the lesson has been absorbed. But sometimes, just when we think we're moving on, the universe seems to send us signs, coincidences that feel too meaningful to ignore. What if these aren't just accidents? What if there's something more? There are moments in life when everything seems to align, as if the universe itself is pointing you toward a specific person or situation. These occurrences might feel like nothing more than chance, but deep down, there's a sense that they carry a greater meaning. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, the experience of meaningful coincidences that go beyond the ordinary flow of events. It's the feeling that something deeply significant is unfolding right before your eyes. When you find yourself bombarded by reminders of someone you've been thinking about, or when a series of events occur that seem too perfectly timed to be coincidence, your unconscious might be signaling that a deeper connection exists. These coincidences often arise at times of emotional intensity, when your mind is occupied with unresolved emotions, unspoken desires, or unfinished business. The universe seems to respond, offering you clues, nudging you back toward that person, or showing you a new layer of the emotional connection that still lingers in your psyche. Jung believed that these experiences were not simply random, but rather that they revealed an underlying order within the chaos of life. The people who occupy your thoughts may not just be there by chance. They might represent something profound within your personal journey. Synchronicity, in this sense, is more than just a series of coincidences. It is the unfolding of events that reflect a deeper unconscious connection. Perhaps the universe is reminding you that these relationships are not mere happenstance, but meaningful parts of your own psychological growth. Every event, every person, every feeling has significance, even if it's not immediately clear to you. When synchronicities happen, it's often a call to pay attention, to take notice of the deeper patterns in your life. The signs you're seeing may not always make logical sense, but they carry emotional and symbolic weight. They are a reflection of the connections between your inner world and the outer reality you're experiencing. Perhaps the person you can't stop thinking about isn't just a figure from your past. They may symbolize something in your own psyche that's ready to be recognized or healed. The invisible thread between you and them is woven with meaning, and synchronicity acts as a gentle reminder to pay attention, to look deeper, and to trust that there is a purpose in these mysterious connections. At times, these meaningful events might lead us to question, is it truly all coincidence, or is there a connection beyond the surface? These signs don't always provide clear answers, but they invite us to be curious about the possibility that there is something more to the people who stay in our minds, something that speaks to a larger pattern we have yet to fully understand. Sometimes the people who stay on your mind aren't just individuals. They evolve into something much larger, taking on a symbolic significance in your unconscious. These people become archetypes, universal figures that represent deeper parts of our psyche and our life experiences. They are no longer merely people, but representations of qualities, desires, or unresolved aspects of ourselves. According to Carl Jung, archetypes are primal images inherited from our shared human experience that shape our perceptions and behavior. They serve as blueprints for understanding different dimensions of the self. And when someone occupies your thoughts persistently, they may be playing the role of an archetype within your mind. Take, for example, the figure of the mentor, the wise guide who helps you navigate challenges and grows you in ways you hadn't imagined. Perhaps someone in your life took on that role, and their presence in your thoughts is more about the wisdom they imparted rather than their individual characteristics. Or maybe it's the lover, representing not only romantic attachment, but also a desire for deep connection, vulnerability, and self-expression. This person, while real, may embody a part of your psyche that is seeking love, acceptance, or intimacy in a way that hasn't been fully explored. When people turn into archetypes in your unconscious, they stop being just people. They become vessels of personal transformation. Jung believed that archetypes are formed through the interactions between our inner world and the outer world, shaping how we relate to others and ultimately to ourselves. As we move through life, we encounter different archetypal figures, each one influencing the course of our personal development. The person who constantly occupies your thoughts might be acting as a mirror, reflecting back a role that you're subconsciously trying to play out. They may represent an aspect of your own growth or even a quality you are learning to integrate into your life. whether they appear as the warrior, challenging your limits, the victim, triggering feelings of powerlessness, or the shadow, confronting your darker self. They are all trying to teach you something about who you are and who you are becoming. But what happens when a real person becomes frozen in the role of an archetype? When we idealize someone to the point that they no longer feel human, but rather symbolic? In these cases, we lose sight of their individuality and instead project a set of expectations and desires onto them. This is where the danger lies. When the person in your mind is no longer allowed to be a full, complex human being, but becomes an archetype in your psyche, you may find it hard to accept their flaws, their imperfections, or their inevitable changes. This projection often leads to disappointment, as the person can never truly live up to the idealized version you've created. However, the true lesson lies in recognizing this pattern and learning to embrace the complexity of others and ourselves. Instead of relying on simplistic, one-dimensional images, the people who stay in our thoughts aren't just part of our past. They often play a crucial role in shaping our inner world. When you can recognize that someone has become an archetype, in your psyche you gain the power to transform your relationship with them and with the parts of yourself that they represent. The question becomes, what is it about this person that is calling you to grow, and how can you use this insight to move closer to your authentic self? When someone is constantly occupying your thoughts, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, as though your mind is trapped in a loop of endless contemplation. The first step to freeing yourself from this mental prison is to understand that these persistent thoughts are not necessarily a sign of weakness or obsession. They are an invitation to explore deeper layers of your own psyche, to understand why this person continues to linger, and to uncover the unresolved emotions and attachments that are keeping you tethered to them. Carl Jung's concept of individuation provides a powerful framework for this process. Individuation is the journey toward integrating all parts of the self, both light and dark, conscious and unconscious. It is about facing the aspects of yourself that have been neglected or repressed and allowing them to come into the light. When someone remains in your thoughts, it's often because they are connected to a part of you that has yet to be fully acknowledged or understood. The key to freeing your mind begins with self-awareness. Take time to reflect on why this person occupies such a prominent place in your mind. What feelings arise when you think about them? Are there unresolved emotions, unmet needs, or unconscious projections at play? Perhaps they represent something you have not yet fully processed: pain, longing, regret, or even something positive like admiration or unfulfilled potential. Understanding these emotions is the first step in unraveling the mental hold they have over you. Journaling, meditation, or even deep self-inquiry can help you identify the root of your obsession. Once you understand the underlying cause, you can begin to consciously release the emotional charge that keeps pulling your thoughts back to them. Another important step is learning to detach emotionally. This doesn't mean erasing the person from your life or pretending they didn't matter. It means shifting your focus from obsessive thinking to emotional neutrality. Detachment allows you to regain your inner peace without being controlled by the unresolved emotions tied to that person. One powerful method of detachment is through the practice of mindfulness, being present with your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Rather than getting lost in a narrative about this person, observe your thoughts as they arise and let them pass like clouds in the sky. With practice, you can create space between yourself and the emotions that once felt all-consuming. Finally, freeing your mind also involves embracing the process of healing and growth. Every experience, even those that involve lingering thoughts about someone, is an opportunity for personal transformation. The work of individuation asks us to confront our shadows, the parts of ourselves we've hidden or neglected, and integrate them into our whole being. If someone continues to haunt your thoughts, it may be because they represent an unresolved piece of your inner puzzle. Perhaps they embody a quality you wish to develop, a wound you haven't healed, or a lesson you've yet to learn. Instead of fighting these thoughts, allow them to guide you toward deeper self-awareness and emotional clarity. Through this process, you transform what was once a source of pain or obsession into a pathway toward personal growth and emotional balance. When you begin to understand the deeper layers of your mind, you regain the ability to choose your emotional focus, to decide which thoughts deserve your attention, and to redirect your energy toward growth. The person who once dominated your thoughts may still hold a place in your heart, but they no longer have the power to control your mind. Through self-awareness, detachment, and healing, you can free yourself from the grip of obsessive thoughts and return to a place of emotional equilibrium where your true self can flourish. As we've explored today, the people who stay on our minds are not just lingering in our thoughts by accident. They carry messages, lessons, and reflections of deeper parts of ourselves that are asking for attention. By understanding the unconscious, connections, projections, emotional bonds, and archetypes at play, we can free ourselves from the patterns that hold us back and regain emotional balance. Remember, growth is a journey, and every experience, no matter how challenging, is an opportunity to become a more complete version of yourself. If you found value in this exploration of the mind, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, as it helps others discover this transformative content. Don't forget to subscribe to Mirror of Being, because we dive deep into the fascinating realms of psychology, philosophy, and personal growth every single day. Turn on the notifications so you never miss a chance to awaken more of your true self. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and keep embracing the journey within.